Hey there, welcome back to another video. Folks, strap yourselves in. Strap yourselves into that ejector seat like John McClane in Die Hard 2, because things are about to explode. You better get ready. It's going to be bumpy, and there's going to be fire everywhere, and you better hope that that parachute's going to work. Because this article is about to die fucking hard. And the article in question that I'm talking about is an article that is from comicbookresources.com. It was a article that was linked to me by a friend of mine on social media, and I read it. And at first I thought it was a joke, it was a satire. I thought it was just, one of those things where it was made to parody these kind of articles that are just looking for reasons to be outraged about a popular film, or to take a contrarian opinion that's so extreme that you can't take it seriously. But no, this is actually an article that is intended to be something that should be accepted on face value. It should be something that should be looked at as some kind of valid interpretation of a film or a series of films. From a guy who does a podcast about film franchises. From an author who went to college and graduated with a degree in creative writing. I think that's rather fitting that he graduated with a degree in creative writing, because this is every bit as fictional as a creative writing piece. And that's the thing. That's the thing that pisses me off. That's the thing that made me want to make this video, because I'm sick and fucking tired of this shit happening. I'm tired of these writers and these critics getting away with their bullshit. I'm tired of them being allowed to have a platform and delude other people. I'm tired of this deception. I'm sick and fucking tired of it. It should not be acceptable. This has gone far beyond someone's opinion. This is going into the territory of somebody twisting things around to points where, in order for them to make the point that they're trying to make, they have to fabricate things. And fabrication of ideas is fine in the right context, but when it comes to this kind of thing, it's not okay. And this isn't the only instance where this is happening. I can come up with numerous examples where people are seeing things that aren't even there. They are so focused. They are so zeroed in on what triggers them, what is potentially going to upset them about the film. They don't look at the movie for entertainment value or for the different elements of it that work or don't work, like the direction or the writing or the characters or the performances or any of those other elements of a film production. They look at a film for how it aligns with their particular political beliefs. They look at a film for how problematic it could or could not be. And when you look at a film from that lens, and you look at it critically in that way, as many times as these kind of writers do, well, you're bound to start looking for things. And when you start looking for things, and you do it so often, and you do it with films that don't really have a lot of that going on in general when it comes to the script, then you start making shit up. Then you start seeing things that aren't there. You start chasing fucking ghosts. And that's exactly what is happening here. And I'm just absolutely beside myself about it. I'm sick of it. It should not be allowed anymore. These kind of writers who keep doing this shit should be fired. They shouldn't have a platform anymore. It's harsh, but it's true. Because your job as a writer, if you're writing about film, if you're doing film theory, or if you're doing all this other stuff, you're supposed to write these film essays or these moments of reflection based on some semblance of fucking reality. Because that's what's fair to the film and fair to the people reading the article. Because not everyone's going to actually see the movie before they read what you write. There's a certain integrity there that these writers lack. And as a result, they should be sent packing. If you don't have the integrity that a writer is supposed to have when it comes to this kind of work, then you shouldn't be working at this job anymore. Because you clearly don't have a lot of integrity. Because you're willing to lie to prove whatever point you're trying to make. And there will be a lot of people that'll read an article like this and they'll buy it. They'll buy it without even seeing the film. People wonder why film journalism and, film criticism in general, when it comes to written platforms, whether it's on social media or other forms of written media, is something that's dying. It's because of shit like this. You have writers who will get away with this crap and do it repeatedly. And I don't give a fuck if it's clickbait. There's no excuse for it. None whatsoever. And so people are probably like, at this point, you're like 6 minutes in, you haven't even gotten to the article. That's because I had to let that out in order to effectively break this down. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. Because this is something I've been keeping inside of me in my basement for years. Because I kept seeing articles like this. Like the one where a writer reviewed Last Night in Soho, the Edgar Wright film, for RogerEbert.com. And he didn't like the film, and that's fine. But he criticized the film heavily for its depiction of an African American character and saying that he was close to being accused of rape. And for a very heavy subject like that, you should be honest. He wasn't. Because that never happened in the film itself. The white girl that he was with, she was never going to try to accuse him of rape. That never happened in the fucking film. And the guy pointed that out and said it's a problem with the script, and it wasn't even there. That's what I'm saying. This shit is become acceptable for some reason because a lot of people don't care anymore or are so apathetic about it, or they don't know. They don't know what's going on. So this is why I'm doing this, to kind of bring awareness to this bullshit, so maybe somebody could see this and actually speak up and write a comment or send a message to the people who run these sites to get these fucking people off these platforms and get people who actually will write honest fucking articles for once. So anyway, this is from comicbookresource.com, and the title is definitely a clickbait title. Why A Good Day to Die Hard is the best film in the Bruce Willis franchise. And so is like the heading underneath. Get ready for this one, folks. You better strap yourself in like John McClane in Die Hard 2 to that ejector seat, because this is gonna blow you away. And not in a good way. You better make sure the parachute's working. Otherwise, it's going to be a really bumpy landing. With his pervasive misogyny and unchecked violence, Bruce Willis's most famous role as John McClane is accurately displayed in A Good Day to Die Hard. I'm at a loss for words. Pervasive misogyny? What the hell is so misogynistic about Die Hard? Oh, because there's a guy who's the lead in the film, and he's married to a woman, and he shoots a bunch of guys, and the woman isn't really the main focus of the film. And is that what we're trying to say? It's misogynistic because of that? No, it's even more ridiculous. It's even more bullshit than you think it is. Trust me. Die Hard is one of the most celebrated movies of all time. Damn right. Making it onto almost every list of the best action movies ever made. That's because it is. It's considered the benchmark for the action genre by so many people, including myself, for a legitimately good reason. Because it's a great action film. And one of the greatest films out there, period, when it comes to this kind of movie. You could even say it's one of the greatest films, period. I mean, I might be repeating myself, but it just bears something. It's just something that bears repeating. Die Hard is a classic. And if you're going to say that A Good Day to Die Hard is the better movie, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. I think it's laughable. I think it's ridiculous. But if the article just stopped there, then I wouldn't even have made this video. I would have laughed it off, like, all right, teach their own, man. Teach their own, pal. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't. Trust me. So, it's one of the most celebrated movies of all time, making it onto almost every list of the best action movies ever made. It also jump-started the career of Bruce Willis with his performance as NYPD Officer John McClane, the wisecracking everyman that America couldn't help but fall in love with. While Die Hard spawned 4 sequels in 25 years, critics and fans alike agree that none of the later films of the franchise have even come close to the original. Fans agree? I don't know. A lot of people really like Die Hard with a Vengeance. And there are some people who have even said that they like it more than the original. So maybe you didn't do that much research. Just like you didn't really pay attention to Die Hard when you watched it for this article. Because that's the only way that you were able to come up with the conclusions that you make here. Other than you just fucking lied. And you just pulled shit out of your ass so you could write an article for the website. So, anyway, here he goes. He says, yet there's a case to be made that Die Hard is the worst in the franchise, while the most maligned is actually the best. Okay, alright. What is this case? What is this case? I'm sure this case is full of bullshit, but okay, alright, show me this case. Scoring only a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 28 out of 100 on Metacritic, 2013's A Good Day to Die Hard is the worst ranked Die Hard film by a huge margin, almost to the point where it seems like it's not even worth watching. I wouldn't say it's not even worth watching at all. It does have some moments where it's decent. Definitely has a big budget. There's some moments where there's some practical action, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best in the franchise. But anyway, but avoiding A Good Way to Die Hard would be a mistake, as it not only has the best action set pieces of the franchise, but surprisingly has the most honest depiction of McClane so far. Okay, the best action set pieces? Better than anything that happened in the first film on Nakatomi Plaza, on the skyscraper. A lot of the iconic moments in that film. Better than the action in Die Hard 2. Better than the chase scenes in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Better than the over-the-top but incredibly enjoyable and thrilling action in Live Free or Die Hard. Better than all those. I will say this, I think the film has some decent action bits, but none of them are better than anything in the other films in the franchise when it comes to an action set piece. None of them are. Not a single one. But okay, try to sell me on this, writer. Taken for its action scenes alone, there's something refreshing about A Good Day to Die Hard. How is it refreshing? The gunplay isn't really that special. There's some stuff where you have a real helicopter and you have real explosions, but you also have a lot of moments where there's CGI. You have direction that's schizophrenic because you have a director who knows what he's doing at one moment, but then doesn't know what the fuck he's doing the next. Is that what's refreshing about the action in that film? That it's horribly inconsistent? I don't know if refreshing is the right word for that, but okay. Especially after the rightfully maligned jet punching scene in Live Free or Die Hard. Jet punching. He doesn't punch a jet. This is like the first of many times where this author just lies. He fucking makes shit up. There's no jet punching. And that was an awesome scene. and better than anything in a Good Day to Die Hard. It's a breath of fresh air to find McClane stripped of the superhero status he gained over the past 3 movies. That's not to say that he doesn't get up to any elaborate stunts, but there is a groundedness into his action that reminds audiences of the fire hose jump from Die Hard, rather than when McClane shoots a car at a helicopter and Live Free or Die Hard. What was the problem with McClane shooting a helicopter with a car? That was fucking awesome too. That was badass. That was a really cool scene. It's the kind of over-the-top action I love. Sorry. What was the fucking problem with it again? That it wasn't realistic? Well, nothing in Good Day to Die Hard is that realistic either. I mean, shouldn't both John and his son be dying of radiation poisoning or some shit because of what happened in the climax? I don't know. That's just me. Director John Moore employed this style throughout the entirety of A Good Day to Die Hard, using CGI sparingly so that the film's action really stands out, especially when compared to an era that was becoming more and more defined by digital slickness, as seen in films like Iron Man 3, World War Z, and The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, which all came out the same year. You know what, Ryder? You have a point there. I'll give you that. He did decide to not have a lot of CGI. And I've given the film credit for that. I think it deserves credit for that. That it had a lot more practical stuff. But that doesn't mean it's better than Die Hard. Or any of the other films in the franchise. He continues, there's a perfectly paced 20-minute sequence near the beginning of A Good Day to Die Hard, effortlessly moving between gunfights and buildings and car chases on the busy streets of Moscow that carries a kinetic excitement not seen since the Bad Boys 2 era Michael Bay or Paul Greengrass's The Bourne Supremacy. No wonder this guy likes A Good Day to Die Hard. He thinks that one of the Bourne films is like right up there with the pinnacle of action. That makes sense why he's more... sorry, had another brain aneurysm there. That makes sense to why he's more accepting of the film's inconsistent camera work with the shaky cam and the quick cuts, because that's a relative hallmark of the Bourne films. And within all of this, A Good Day to Die Hard remains firmly a Die Hard movie. I don't know, it didn't really feel like a Die Hard film to me. And I'm not the only one. Like a lot of other fans of the franchise did not really feel that way at all. It felt like a generic action movie that was stripped of what made Die Hard what it was. But okay, alright, keep going. Keep trying to convince me, man. You're doing a piss poor job so far, but I'm still trying to hold out some hope. Still trying to have some faith. So, he says that it remains a Die Hard movie, both nodding to and one-upping the most memorable scenes from Die Hard, from the rooftop explosion to the glass-shattering sequences. How does it one-up the rooftop explosion? How? With the scene when John and his son jump out the window and it's CGI and they jump into another window? I think, or a skylight or some shit, or yeah, when they jump out the window and the explosion behind them, and it was really bad green screen. That's what tops the explosion on the rooftop when John McClane has the fire hose around his waist and jumps off, and it's all done practically with the real fucking explosion, and it's not CGI, and it's not done behind a fucking green screen. That's what tops it? Really? Well, this is some great franchising on its own. More importantly, it offers a stark contrast between the two versions of McClane, separated by 25 years, and it's not for the better. And by the way, throughout this entire video, I will flub my words. I will have moments where I kind of stumble a bit. That's just kind of what happens when you're doing things live. But also, it's what happens when you are just so irritated that you can feel your skin crawl or your bones itch while you're reading such bullshit. But okay, alright. This is where he goes from, oh, come on, man. Good Day to Die Hard is the best film in the franchise. It has the best action. Like, whatever, dude. This is where it gets into the territory of being completely dishonest, deluded, and just completely, absolutely not even remotely close to reality. So there is a rotten core to the Die Hard franchise that up until A Good Day to Die Hard is at worst celebrated and at best ignored. It's ignored because it's not fucking there. I don't see it. My friends don't see it. Pretty much anyone else who watches the Die Hard films don't see this. The only person that sees this is this writer. So it's not that it's ignored. There's no reason to pay attention to it because it doesn't fucking exist. It's not even there. It's like complaining about people not seeing a painting on a wall, but the painting isn't even actually hung on the fucking wall. Why aren't you seeing that painting? What painting? There is no fucking painting, man. Maybe you need to go to therapy. Work some shit out. Because you're making shit up. You're talking crazy. Talking about paintings that aren't even there. So anyway, he's talking about the rotten core and how it's at worst celebrated and best ignored, and it's found at the heart of who McClane is as a character. Die Hard, the two-phrase word found in each of the film's titles, is a term that describes someone fanatical, devoted, and strongly resistant to change, so it is no surprise that McClane adopts the cultural attitudes in the American Western for his personal identity, not just in his famous yippee-ki-yay catchphrase, but also in how he behaves and what he represents, harkening back to an era of unmasked American colonization, genocide, and misogyny. This is best seen in the two most important relationships in the film with his wife Holly and LAPD Sergeant Al Powell. I'm going to repeat that again. So I'm going to go a little slower here. But also in how he behaves and what he represents. Harkening back to an era of unmasked American colonization, genocide, and misogyny. This is something that this guy wrote with a straight face and actually thought he was saying something profound. Really. 100%. This guy runs a podcast. He went to college. He got a degree. And and he's trying to think like he's actually making a valid point here about Die Hard. It wasn't called Die Hard because it's about a fanatic who's resisting the change. It was called Die Hard because it's hard to kill John McClane. He's a guy who's gonna keep coming. That's why it's called Die Hard. It's not called Die Hard because of that. Because he's a fanatic and he's resistant to change and he's so tied into the past. This is what I'm talking about. When you have a system that teaches people that this kind of thinking is not only acceptable when it comes to writing about films, but it's also something that should be the norm. This is something that you should try to do when you write about films. And this is why this keeps happening. Because it's considered to be acceptable. It's considered to be something that you can give a pass for because it's somebody's interpretation of a film. When an interpretation turns into a absolute 100% mutation, then it's not an interpretation anymore. There's a difference between an interpretation and a mutation. This is a mutation of a film because you are twisting things around. You are adding things into it that aren't there. You are changing it. You're not looking at it for what it is. You're looking at it for something that is only existing from this mindset where you are just forcing these changes upon these films after the fact without the right context and without knowing what the fuck you're actually talking about, despite all these big words that you use about colonization and misogyny. You can throw all that out there. You can do that all you want, but it doesn't actually mean that you know what the fuck you're talking about. And if this is meant to be a satire, it's not very clever. Because it's pretty fucking clear. It doesn't seem like it's very subtle at all. And I don't buy that it is a satire by looking at this guy's bio. It seems 100% sincere. And that's just sad. And that's pathetic to me. And that's why this guy shouldn't be writing for this platform anymore. Because he just should not be allowed to continue to mutate the themes and the ideals and what a film actually represents in order to make it fit into a particular box of outrage. Should not be allowed to do that. Oh, but it's a free country. Yeah, it is. But this is also considered a job. This is also considered a service you're providing to other people. There should be lines that you can't cross that make it so you are no longer employed or no longer have the opportunity to write that. This is the kind of stuff that you should only be allowed to write on a blog. Your personal blog or on your Facebook page or Twitter. That's where you should be allowed to say this shit. Not in any kind of mainstream platform. Especially when you are just making up all kinds of bullshit. American colonization, genocide, and misogyny. Yeah, you're seeing paintings. You're seeing paintings on the wall that aren't there, man. You're seeing ghosts. So anyway, let's keep going. So I can end this video and I can have some peace of fucking mind. Die Hard opens with McClane leaving New York to visit his wife, Holly Gennaro, as she's moved away from him with their 2 children. See, even my fucking voice is like, fuck this, man. I can't do it. This is too fucking stupid even for me. This is too ridiculous. This is so full of shit. I can't continue. Come on, voice. Keep going. We've got to do this. Don't die on me. So, Die Hard opens with McClane leaving New York to visit his wife, Holly Gennaro, as she has moved away from him with their 2 children to start a career in Los Angeles. After learning that she has gone back to using her original last name and is thriving in her position with the Nakatomi Corporation, John picks a fight with her and then pinpoints the fragility of a man confronted with a strong woman. Oh my God. What? She's a strong, independent woman. And McClane is a fragile man. How dare he get into any kind of argument with her? I don't know about you, but it was kind of a shitty thing to do, to change your last name while you're still together as a couple without really consulting with him. And apparently they did consult. She did consult with him, but she only changed her last name because of this weird tradition that her Japanese boss had at the company where you're not supposed to be married. I'm surprised he didn't talk about that and how that's not necessarily racist, but how that's kind of fucked up in its own way, because it honestly kind of is. Forcing your particular culture onto other people and causing them to have to change their last name even though they're still married to that person in order to fit a particular cultural box because they happen to be the boss. I don't know about you. I think it's a better place to write about some kind of sin in Die Hard than McClane having a little argument with his wife about her changing her last name. It has nothing to do with Holly being too strong for him. He can't handle a strong, independent woman. Seemed like he handled her all right, and at the same time, he felt really bad after that. The offer doesn't even mention the fact that after he had gotten into that argument with Holly, he's banging his head against the wall. He's saying, "Oh, that was great. That was great, John. Real mature." Like that, he actually said that. That's an actual scene in the film right after he got into that argument. So he did feel humility. He felt bad, and the film showed that John felt bad, and he felt like that was a stupid thing for him to do. So all this bullshit about how he can't handle it, he handled it fine, because right afterwards he even had a moment of humility where he was like, "Man, I fucked up. I need to try to make things right." So okay, let's continue. I mean, I'm probably gonna, I'm probably gonna, I'm gonna have so many brain cells die while I'm doing this, but I'm gonna keep going. So, thankfully, well, actually, let's go back a little bit. Because what does John have to offer to Holly anymore, other than childish outbursts and a penchant for violence? I don't know. You're really reading into a relationship that you don't really have a lot of info about. There's not a lot of details about how their relationship is and the ins and outs of it. So I don't think this is really something that you should really be speaking this confidently about. Also, at the same time, um, I don't think that he has nothing to offer to Holly other than childish outbursts and a penchant for violence. Because she actually said she missed him. I missed you, John. So there's definitely something more to this relationship than what this writer is saying. Also, the penchant for violence is because of, I don't know, his job and his training, and that's what he has spent his life doing, and he's really good at it, and those skills save Holly's life and a bunch of other people's lives in the film. But okay, but no, he just really likes to be violent. He just has this penchant for violence. That's all he has to offer. He's a child. He's a misogynist, and he just likes to get into temper tantrums and be violent. That's an incredibly, ridiculously simplistic viewpoint of John McClane as a character. But okay. Thankfully for John, the argument is cut off unconcluded, and the two never talk to each other again. What? Because you think that Holly would have, completely shut him down? And he would have started simping for her? It seems like this guy is pissed that John McClane doesn't simp for his wife. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Seriously? That's a problem now? That a male lead in an action film or any film, it just doesn't always simp for his fucking wife. He gets in an argument, has a kind of a point, because if you really think about it, if the roles were reversed and a man who's married to a woman changed his last name because his boss pretty much told him to, I don't know. I think that a lot of people would be pissed at the guy and think he did kind of a shitty thing, even if it meant only way you're going to get the job is if you change your last name. I don't know about that. Maybe don't put a job above your marriage, especially when the only way you can get the job is if you lie and change your last name and act like you're not married. I don't know about you. I think that's kind of fucked up. And it's fucked up either way. It has nothing to do with sexism, because it's fucked up when it comes to either the husband or the wife. When it comes to both instances. It's not just fucked up when it comes to Holly changing her last name and then John being pissed about it. It's fucked up if John changed his last name and Holly was pissed about it. Because there's a reason for both of them to be kind of upset. Because the whole reasoning for Holly changing her last name was kind of bullshit anyway. Oh, you have to change your last name because I frown upon married women working at my company. So anyway, I'm surprised there isn't an article trying to cancel Takagi. There's more there. There's more there. If you want to go that far and to write some ridiculous article and hit piece, there's more there than with John. But okay. This marital silence is a fascinating choice, especially for a movie pretending to be a romance. It's not really trying to be that much of a romance. It's an action film first and foremost. But okay. After their argument, John kills everyone, and the pair are reunited as she is held hostage by a criminal mastermind, Hans Gruber. This could have been a moment of relief, where the audience feels their love, but Holly only looks at him with a mix of pity and disgust while muttering, Jesus. And John quips, hi, honey, as though returning home from work in a 50s sitcom. I bet if you interviewed and you talked to Bonnie Bedelia herself, she would tell you this is bullshit. Because if you watch the film and you actually pay attention to what the actress is doing, instead of what you think she's doing, or you're looking away and you're like, oh God, John is such a misogynistic asshole, and you just hear her say Jesus, then you're like, oh, see, I was right. She's looking at him with pity and disgust. No, she's looking at him with worry. There's a clear look of worry on her face because that's her husband. That's the man that she's loved for most of her life. And he's beat to hell and he's bleeding everywhere. She goes, Jesus, with a look of worry, not pity and disgust. She's like, oh my God, you went through hell, didn't you, John? That's the kind of thing that's being conveyed here. Not, oh, you misogynistic jerk off. I pity you. You're disgusting. That's not what she fucking does in the scene itself. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to deception. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That is not what happens in that scene. The scene ends in apparent heroics as John kills the final bad guy and rescues his wife, but the details of this scene unearth the inherent misogyny of the franchise. Can I unearth something else? Can I unearth the fucking fury and rage from my belly? Because this is so fucking ridiculous. This is so fucking wrong on so many levels. It's not there. And people like this get away with it. They are allowed to lie and to bullshit people multiple times over. This guy has a fucking podcast. Is he bullshitting his way through the podcast too, where he's reviewing franchises? Oh, I think he is, because in his bio he talks about how you could come to the revelation that Jaws 4 is actually not that bad, or is actually pretty good. Jaws 4: The Revenge is shit. It's a shitty film. Not that bad, but okay, that's your opinion. That's fine. You're entitled to it. I don't have a problem with people disagreeing with me in that capacity, because personal opinions, no matter how much I disagree with them, are what keeps this world interesting. But when your opinions turn into fucking lies, then all bets are off to me. The gloves are off too. And I explode like the rooftop of Nakatomi fucking Tower. The end of Die Hard. So, alright, let's break this down. Let's break this bullshit down. As Gruber dangles out the window, he clings to Holly in a desperate attempt to save himself. But he isn't holding onto her wrist, but instead grabs the watch that she was given for her incredible performance in her career. And the watch represents her independence, her success, everything that is hers. And as John releases the clasp, it disappears. Just like your brain cells disappeared? This does not happen in the film. I looked up the film on streaming, and I actually screenshotted the scene when John goes to grab Holly. He grabs her wrist first. But he doesn't just hold on to her wrist in that moment, because Hans Gruber is also holding on to Holly. And there's that extra weight. And you know that extra weight could cause both of them to fall and die. Oh, and if that isn't enough, Hans also has a loaded fucking gun that he points at them. So John doesn't just hold on to her wrist and not bother with the watch, because if he didn't unclasp the watch as soon as he fucking could, both John and Holly would be dead. And I just realized that the author is saying that Hans is the one that grabbed the watch first. But it's hard to really kind of get that sometimes when you're reading through this, because he's not using the right grammar or something. It just seems like it's more confusing than it really needs to be, because he doesn't have really a lot of context. So Hans is the one that grabs the watch on Holly's wrist. And he's trying to do this whole thing about how Hans, I guess, is some kind of misogynist too, which I guess. But it's also a bunch of bullshit because he only grabbed her watch because the watch is there and it was the first thing he saw. So he probably just grabbed it right then and there because he's thinking about preserving his life at that point. And that never really popped in his head that he was like, yeah, I'm gonna grab the watch first on Holly's wrist because it represents her independence. He doesn't know any of that. That's not going through his head or John's head or anyone's head in a scenario like that. He grabbed the watch because, oh, there's a watch. I doesn't grab it. Or maybe you tried to grab her wrist but then grabbed her watch. That kind of shit happens. Doesn't mean there's a deeper theme behind it. There doesn't have to be a deeper reasoning behind everything. This is a prime example of that. Oops. No brain cells. What do you think, I'm fucking stupid? I mean, grabs the watch. No. And even if that was the case, like, why would you think that John would have this thought process in his head while his wife is dangling and is near death, and so is he, that he's like, I better grab that watch first because that represents Holly's independence and I gotta take that away from her. What the fuck? Seriously. God damn it. I wish this kind of bullshit would die hard and die a lot faster than it currently is. He unclasps the watch not to destroy her independence, but to save her and to save himself and to stop the terrorist from shooting them in the fucking face. I love how he just conveniently forgets the fact that Hans Gruber had a gun. Come on, man. How can you be this fucking stupid? So, here it is clear that John never had any intention of apologizing to Holly. Oh no, he's not gonna simp for his wife. Oh, what a crime, what a shame. He doesn't, by the way, but just in winning the argument as only he knows how. What the fuck does that even mean? There's no argument here. Holly isn't even thinking about the argument at this point. I guarantee it. She's thinking about, John, save me. Please. I don't want to die. And then John saves her. And she doesn't die. And that's probably the first thing that's on her mind as that night ends. Thank you, John. I love you. Thanks for saving me. You're not perfect, but you went through hell. And you did everything that you possibly could to save my life. And that means the world to me. You're not going to have a moment where after John saves her, well, fuck you, John. What the hell is wrong with you? Thanks for saving my life, but you didn't apologize to me after that argument that we had earlier, so you can fuck off. And you took away my independence. No! Nobody thinks like this. Why do these people why do I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't say these people, but why do people like this writer, think that this is how the world works? This is how people actually act, or would act in real life, or should act. See, that's the scary thing. They think that this is how people should act. Not that they act this way, that this is how they should act. And I'm sorry. That's just not how it is. That's not how the world fucking works. The world is not based around your fantasy ideals of how a relationship is. And thank fucking God it isn't. So anyway, now he's gonna turn his sights to Al Powell. Because, targeting and taking shots at John McClane is not enough. We also got to take shots at Al. So if the main relationship at Die Hard isn't between John and Holly, who takes on that role? That would be Sergeant Al Powell, a member of the LAPD who had been moved to a desk after shooting and killing a child while on duty. The most tender scenes in the movie are actually between these two cops as they chat throughout the entirety of the heist via radio. They call each other babe. Wait, what? They call each other babe? I don't know about you. I've seen Die Hard countless times. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember a single scene where Al and John were talking to each other on the radio and they called each other babe. Was this guy listening to the Barbed Wire soundtrack when he was writing this? He was listening to that song, Don't Call Me Babe! And it's like, oh, they called each other babe. Like, no, that's not what fucking happened. Stop listening to the Barbed Wire soundtrack and actually listen to what's going on in the movie. God. Call each other babe. Share stories of their past and support each other as they suffer physical and emotional pain. Even if there was a scene that I can't recall of them calling each other babe, it was done in jest. It was not meant to be anything other than that. But okay. In a scene that should have been between John and Holly, John apologizes for his behavior and promises to be more supportive, but he says this all to Al, a cop he's never seen before, then rather to his wife, the person he has hurt. Dude, let it go. John McClane isn't a simp. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up, man. He shows humility in that scene. He apologizes to Al. What? There's no weight to his apology now because he apologized to Al instead of Holly? He couldn't talk to Holly. He had no way to talk to her at that point. The only person he could talk to was Al. So that doesn't carry any weight now because it wasn't directly to Holly? Even though he shared that humility, he shared that moment of recognition that he was, or realization really, that he was wrong? No, it doesn't count because it didn't happen in a specific way. So, perhaps Die Hard is best watched as a fantasy of the male chauvinist. Don't be fucking talking about fantasies. Like, really, man. You're the last person who should be writing about fantasies, as this entire fucking article is mostly a fantasy. But okay. So it's a fantasy of the male chauvinist, a story of a man who finds solace in terrorist attacks, even fake ones. What it was, okay, yeah, they set this all up so they could steal money, but it's still not a fake attack. It's not fake. It's a real terrorist attack on a real building in a real place. Just because they set it up so they could steal money doesn't mean it was a fake attack. They still killed people. That still happened. But okay. Alright. As you can see, my bullshit meter is just through the roof. Okay. Because they are the only place left where he feels in control. Where his violence and uncaring can actually take shape in a modern world that is sick of his behavior. What behavior? That he's selfless? He walks through broken fucking glass to help other people? He does whatever he possibly can to save the life of his wife? Is that the behavior you're talking about? Oh, that's so problematic. Oh no, he didn't apologize to his wife right then and there. Well, I mean, he probably off screen said he was sorry to Holly when the time was right. Maybe the time isn't right when you've been through hell and you've been hanging off a skyrise and you almost died. Maybe that's not the best time to be getting into a conversation about an argument. I don't know. That's just me. But okay. All right. Oh, and once again, I haven't. Oh, actually, I'll get to that later because he keeps bringing this up about Holly's independence and how John took it away from her. But okay. All right. I'm sorry. Like, I know this video is really long, but this is a surprisingly long article. So in order for me to really tear it apart, it's got to be as long as it has to. So I really do appreciate you all for bearing with me here and just dealing with this bullshit and surviving along with me. So, okay, talk about how it's a fantasy of a male chauvinist, a man who takes solace in terrorist attacks, even fake ones, even though it's not a fake attack. Talking about how he's uncaring and people are sick of his behavior. McClane becomes perverse ghost of Christmas past. Certainly not the present or the future, as he has already established himself a relic from the bygone era of cowboys, forcing the world to devolve to his version of American idealism. He's not forcing anyone to do anything. He's just stopping these fucking scumbags from killing people on a high rise and doing what he can to save his wife's life. He's not forcing anyone to devolve to anything. If anything is being devolved or twisted, it's Die Hard by this writer. You are the one that's forcing this changing, this devolving, this mutation upon the film, not the movie itself. Don't get shit twisted, because you're the one that's doing the twisting here. So, alright. This one in particular, oh God. Anyone John considers a bad guy, he kills. Not just Gruber's band of thieves, but also Ellis, the modern coke-fueled businessman, and the Johnsons, ineffective bureaucratic FBI agents. He does not kill everyone. What is John McClane? Like, is this like a scene in The Burbs? I'm gonna kill everyone. Like, no, that's not what fucking happens. John McClane is not like, I'm gonna kill everyone in Die Hard. He doesn't even kill everyone, especially not the people that you're fucking saying that he does. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to deception. The levels of deception. This is an insane amount of deception. Anyone that John considers a bad guy, he kills. Not just Gruber's band of thieves, but also Ellis. He doesn't kill Ellis. In fact, he tries to save Ellis's life, because Ellis kills Ellis, because he's a fucking dumbass who trusts a bunch of ruthless terrorists and thinks that they are gonna, make a deal with him. And John's like, no, don't do it. They're gonna kill you. And then he's like, nah, Hans, Bubby, I'm your white knight. And what does this white knight get? A bullet in the fucking head by Hans in order for Hans to prove a point. So no, John doesn't do anything to get him killed. Well, John was there. Oh, so John being there leads to him dying? Really? John doesn't even have to be there, because Ellis is the kind of guy who would try to make a deal with a terrorist and get his ass shot, whether John was there or not. But okay, alright. John kills Ellis. Did not happen. Oh, he also killed the Johnsons. That definitely didn't happen, because they got killed when the terrorists blew up the tower. When they ignited the C4 and their helicopter crashed. That wasn't anything that John did. You were so busy focusing on what about the film was triggering you more than anything else that you didn't fucking see what was right in front of your fucking face. John didn't do that. He didn't do anything when it comes to that explosion. He caused another explosion, but the explosion that he caused in the elevator didn't cause the helicopter to crash that killed the Johnsons. That was set up by the terrorists, which was their plan to blow up a certain part of the building. I guess that just flew by you. Too busy being triggered, apparently. Okay, alright. But the worst of John's behavior isn't in who he kills, but in who he claims to rescue. Oh God, here we go again. I need a drink. I'm surprised at this point this isn't full of fucking alcohol or some shit and not Mellow Yellow. But this is my drink of choice, so here we go. God damn it. Alright. The worst of John's behavior isn't in who he kills, but in who he claims to rescue. By the end of Die Hard, Holly no longer has her career, readopts McClane as her last name, and is told by Powell, "You got yourself a good man. You take good care of him." So Holly no longer has her career. What in this film confirms that? What? There's nothing in this movie that confirms that she no longer has her career. You may think that John McClane's a misogynist asshole, but I highly doubt that after the events of Die Hard, he's going to be like, "Hey, Holly, you get your ass back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. You ain't going back to work. You're only going to be my wife, and that's all you're ever going to do." Like, no, that's not... John McClane is not as much of an asshole as you think he is. He's not going to tell Holly, "Stay in the fucking kitchen. Raise the kids. I'm the only person who makes any revenue around here. Give me a fucking break." There's nothing about what happens that says that she no longer has her career because of John. You know why she doesn't have her current career? Because of Hans Gruber and the fucking terrorists. You know, the people who killed her boss and started this whole fucking thing? You'd think that this guy would honestly believe that John McClane is the terrorist. John McClane is the real villain here. I'm pretty sure he wished he could have gotten away with that, but that was even too much of a stretch for as many stretches as he was making, so he didn't quite go there. But he might as well have. He might as well just said John McClane is the real terrorist. Oh my goodness, he blows up Holly's independence. But okay. Alright. Powell's, and you know why they don't have, she had readopts McClane as her last name? Because she decided to do so because she genuinely loved the guy. And they decided to you know, patch things up. It happens in relationships. They aren't perfect. But they do get patched up. They don't always end in divorce. Even though eventually the relationship did end in divorce, but that's a whole other story. We're just talking about Die Hard, not what happened off screen before Die Hard with a Vengeance. So, okay, meanwhile, Powell's big moment arrives with a crescendo of celebratory music as he finds the gumption to pick up his gun and kill again. The triumph at the end of Die Hard isn't a thwarted heist or even in John and Holly getting back together. John's nightmarish vision of America has been restored when a woman is dragged back to being nothing more than a wife and a cop is unleashed once again as a killer. Is this article written by the fucking meme of that woman on the side of the street just screaming her lungs off because her political chosen president didn't win? Because I remember what happened when Hillary didn't win. You had the woman who was on the ground going, "Ah!" But like that whole, is it written by the same fucking person who's just using the writer's name as a pseudonym? Because that's the energy and the vibe I get from this article. Like, give me a fucking break. No, John's nightmarish version of America hasn't been restored because what's so nightmarish about it? A guy busts his ass and goes through hell and broken glass to save his wife and a lot of other people's lives. What's so nightmarish about that? Oh, she's dragged back to being nothing more than a wife. There's nothing about the film that says that that's what happened or that's what's going to happen. That's all baseless assumptions of bullshit on your part. And saying that Al Powell is unleashed once again as a killer, I don't know. Once again, the guy just isn't paying attention. He either has his head so far shoved up his ass he can't see the screen, or once again, he's so laser focused on these things that are triggering him that he's just seeing things that aren't there, or not seeing things, period. Makes him go blind for a second because he's just so infuriated and enraged that he just gets temporary blindness. But anyway, here's why I take issue with that. Saying that Al is just now unleashed as a killer is a really shitty way to sum up or really look at how that scene plays out. Al is a cop. He spent most of his life protecting and serving on the streets. He makes a tragic mistake and shoots a kid, and makes it so he never wants to fire his gun or pull out his gun ever again. It's something that traumatized him. It's something that probably gave him PTSD. Throughout this whole ordeal, when it comes to this terrorist attack at Nakatomi Plaza, Al, in the climax, he has a moment where he is able to recover. He has a moment where he's able to get past his fear and save lives again. I'm sorry. I think that is a triumphant moment. And it's very deserving of that score. And it's very deserving of the adulation that it gets. And there's nothing nightmarish about it either. Because what's the alternative, writer? That Alexander Godunov's character shoots and kills Holly and John McClane? On a bunch of other people? Is that what the alternative is? Because if that's the alternative, and it is, by the way, there is no other fantasy alternative where Al's able to talk him down. Like, what do you think was going to fucking happen? That Al's going to be like, oh, hey, we don't need to do this. We don't need to do this, man. Let's go have a Twinkie. Like, there's no, that's not what was going to fucking happen. If he tried to talk him down, he would have shot his ass. And then he would have shot John and Holly. And then probably would have shot a bunch of other people until the police shot him down. So Al became a killer only because he had to. And that's something that a lot of cops have to do. That's what cops are trained to do. When it's absolutely necessary, they fire. And there are some times when it's not necessary. And it's unfortunate. It really is that we have cops who are bad or corrupt and really don't do the right thing. But in this instance, that the right thing was done. It's not like Al just decided, I'm just going to shoot this random guy. No, the guy was going to kill a bunch of people. He had an assault rifle or a machine gun, and he was not fucking around. So Al, by becoming a killer in that instance again, he became a hero. He saved a bunch of people. He did the right thing. What is nightmarish about it? Really? The amount of bullshit that I've seen in this article, that's what will give me fucking nightmares. Not what happened in the scene or in Die Hard. God damn it. So this is why Die Hard is the worst of the franchise. Because of what it represents and what it celebrates. So enthusiastic and elevating McClane to the status of a hero, it is hard to not read the film as a satire of American misogyny and violence. It's not a satire of American misogyny and violence. Stop looking at paintings that aren't on the fucking wall, man. But Mataronen has been clear in interviews that this is an earnest testament to what he believes is honorable, so the parody must only be seen in hindsight as the only way to stomach this vicious tale. Oh. Just like I guess the only way I can possibly stomach this article is if I just look at it as satire. And if that's the case, it's not very good satire, but if it was satire, then I could be able to just kind of give it a slide, give it a pass. But this wasn't published on April 1st, so I think it was 100% sincere. It's not satire at all, and that's very hard for me to stomach. Basically, this writer's saying, fuck Mataronen, what he thinks about the movie, what really is central when it comes to this film's themes, the film's themes and what it's about, is this. It's like, who the fuck are you? Seriously, who the fuck are you to say what the film is about and what it's not about? Especially when it comes to the guy who directed the fucking movie. And the writers probably will tell you that you're also full of shit. Like, dude, what the fuck are you on about? The fuck are you smoking? But okay. Alright. American misogyny and violence. God, it's the worst of the franchise because of what it represents and what it celebrates. This is what I'm talking about when it's not just a difference of opinion, it's a lack of journalistic integrity. It's just completely 100% fabricating things. It's a fabrication. It's a fantasy. It's not just one man's interpretation of things. It's an interpretation, like I've been saying throughout this entire video, that's a mutation. It's a mutation of what's actually there. So this is also what makes A Good Day to Die Hard the best of the series. Not in what it changes, but what it retains. 25 years have passed, but McClane hasn't changed at all. Still wisecracking, still killing the bad guys. His age makes him look exhausted, and his quips fall flat, sometimes repeating the same joke multiple times as though no one had heard him or he has nothing left to say. That wasn't intentional. That was Bruce Willis and the writers just being lazy. Seriously, you're gonna try to defend that as if it was some intentional brilliance on their part? Come on, man. You went to college. You've been writing about films. You probably went to film studies or film school. Stop talking out of your fucking ass, man. I understand. It's comic book resources. Maybe you're doing this as a joke. But other people aren't going to see that in that particular way. They're going to see it as you being sincere, unless you say otherwise. So until he says otherwise, this is intended to be a sincere thought piece. And no one can take you fucking seriously as a result. And it's going to be hard for people to take you seriously going forward because of the extreme lengths that you went to fabricate things. But okay. Alright. So his age makes him look exhausted. His quips fall flat, sometimes repeating the same joke multiple times as though no one has heard him or he has nothing left to say. He's divorced and has spent the last 2 movies trying to earn back the love of his children, and it is here that A Good Day to Die Hard succeeds. Not attempting to redeem McClane for the 21st century, but showing him as he is, and has always been. A violent, unpleasant old man that no one wants to be around. Just like people don't want to be around you when they're watching a movie. Because you seem like the guy who would just be the ultimate fucking buzzkill. You'd be bitching and moaning about how a certain film was racist or sexist or whatever ist, and not even being able to enjoy it. You would be somebody in a group of people who are watching a movie where they would try to kick you out of the fucking room because they don't want to hear you bitching anymore. That's what you would be. They would see you as that. As an unpleasant person, but in a different way. And an unpleasant buzzkill who just wants to virtue signal and not actually enjoy a fucking movie. So, it is this unlikability of McClane that is simultaneously the reason why A Good Day to Die Hard was panned on its release, and why it is ultimately the best Die Hard movie. It was panned because it wasn't very good. And McClane wasn't likable because he lost all the personality and charisma and charm that he had in the other films that made him such a likable and iconic character. Part of that's due to the script. Part of that's due to Willis and his performance where he's on half a battery. But it wasn't done intentionally. They weren't like, we're going to deliberately make John McClane unlikable. No. Sorry, this article is just starting to give me indigestion. God damn, it makes me want to throw up. Give me fucking heartburn. But anyway, yeah, that's not what happened. They didn't do it deliberately. You're giving the writers too much fucking credit. So, this is why it was panned, and why it is ultimately the best Die Hard movie, with its failure as a film directly due to an audience finally coming to terms with who their supposed hero actually is. No. A million times fucking no. McClane is a hero. I don't care how many times you scream the top of your lungs or type it on the fucking page that he isn't a hero because he's a misogynist and he's this and that. He's a fucking hero. He saved Holly's life. He saved the lives of numerous people at Nakatomi in the first film. He saved the lives of multiple other people at the airport and on the airplane in Die Hard 2. He saved a lot of other lives in Die Hard with a Vengeance. He saved so many countless of lives in Live Free or Die Hard. and, save some lives too, and a good day to die hard. At the end of the day, John McClane is a hero. But he's just not a guy that you seem to like. And that doesn't mean that he's not a fucking hero. Sorry. That's not how being a hero works. I don't agree with what he says. I don't agree with his politics. I don't agree with this. That doesn't matter. His actions still show that he's a hero. Unless he breaks the law, does something really fucking unforgivable, which John McClane never fucking did in any of these movies, then he's still a hero. And deservedly so. So no, he says, McClane isn't a hero, not even an anti-hero, rather a vicious oaf ruled by anger and violence, a person abandoned and alone, and a man who cannot even look at his own son in the eyes when he says, I love you, and as though still a boy, embarrassed and afraid. He probably doesn't look in his eyes because Bruce Willis just didn't give a fuck. I love Bruce, and I wish him nothing but the best, and it's really awful that he's dealing with this aphasia thing. And that sucks, to have someone who overcame stuttering at a young age. Not so young age, but he overcame stuttering when he was like a teenager or a young adult and became a big movie star. It's well known for his wit and the use of his voice and his quick mind, and that's taken away from him. That's a very tragic thing. And that being said, he didn't really deliver a good performance. So it's not because he deliberately was like, I'm not going to look at Jai Courtney when I say I love you. This didn't really kind of give a fuck. It was a very half-assed performance. It wasn't anything that Bruce did on purpose or the writers put in there. This is what I'm talking about fabricating things, about mutating things to the point where they're so deformed that you can't even recognize it. You can't even recognize this version of Die Hard or A Good Day to Die Hard that this writer is talking about because they're mutated so much. This mutation has gone so far where you can't even look at them and see them as the movies that they are. Like old Die Hard movies, Good Day seems to end in triumph. The bad guys are dead and McClane limps off into the sunset with someone he's supposed to love, but is not sure how. The emptiness captured in the final moments of A Good Day to Die Hard is the most fitting end for McClane, and while his antics are the same as in the other four films, there is no longer any triumph left, simply another march from the carnage, the perfect close to a franchise dedicated to American dread. Yeah, just like I dread reading any articles that come from these kind of writers who are so focused on virtue signaling and whether or not a certain film is offensive or whether or not a particular film aligns with their personal political beliefs than anything else, including the actual film. But anyway, I don't know what else to say. I've ranted on this for over an hour. It's like a feature-length rant, folks. But this rant, this fucking article was long. This was a long-winded article. So it deserved a long, merciless beating. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.